It is rare for me to find myself watching an anime movie, especially one where I haven't seen the prior works. Deep down, I knew I was probably committing a sin by watching the Reze Arc movie before even knowing anything about Chainsaw Man. I knew next to nothing, just some surface level knowledge that Denji is able to transform into some sort of chainsaw devil, and that it is a story revolving around devil hunting and whatnot. It just so happened to be premiering globally, so I went along with a group of friends, and once the credits rolled and the lights faded in, signifying the movie's conclusion, I was absolutely astonished. I can't say whether or not I fully converted into a fan, but one thing led to another. I started to watch the anime afterward, read the manga starting from Reze's arc, officially caught up, and even rewatched the movie. And I gotta say, the movie is a cinematic spectacle. For me, it honestly sits up there among the best anime films I've seen. From the romance of the first half to the action-packed battles of the latter, the film delivered a narrative that filled me with warmth, suspense, thrill, and emptiness, all at different moments throughout its runtime. And mind you, this comes from someone who initially knew nothing about Chainsaw Man. At one point, I was adamant about not giving it the light of day, and yet this movie completely captured my full attention, and admittedly, subverted my initial judgment of the series. Specifically, what was most compelling for me wasn't the latter half, where Denji fights the Bomb Devil, which in its own right was absolutely amazing, but it was the slow and meticulous build-up of the first half of the film. It was a romantic build-up between Denji and Reze, wrapped in an almost faint yet impending sense of dread. In a way, it felt like a psychological horror disguised as a romance. When we first meet Reze, we know next to nothing about her, but what we can see from the big screen is her quirky, cheerful nature, instantly hitting it off with Denji. We see him questioning his own emotions, the growing affection he feels for Reze that conflicts with his admiration for Makima. It struck me, especially on my rewatch, because we're witnessing Denji learn in real time what it means to fall in love for the first time. Given his background, where he was robbed of a normal childhood and the developmental milestones that come with it, he latches onto the first genuine sign of affection Reze gives him. She's touchy, teasing, and irresistibly charismatic. Denji doesn't fully understand it himself, but it's something akin to feeling one's first love. It felt naive, but it left me smiling. When we reach the nighttime school scenes, things gradually grow heavier while maintaining an innocent facade. Reze teaches Denji about school, the two of them bantering and laughing together in an empty classroom as if time itself had stopped. It was so sweet and it felt real, like a love story beginning to bloom. We see them in a more heartfelt light, highlighting the youthful bliss that we're all familiar with. And don't even get me started on the pool scene. The way the camera panned, the cinematography, the use of vibrant blues, the music, the symbolism, it was all so mesmerizing. The scene beautifully emphasized the romantic tension between the two. The way Reze teaches Denji to swim, both of them laughing and playing, it carried this gleeful yet subtle melancholy that laced the scene, and it was breathtakingly beautiful. It genuinely felt like time had stopped, like they were the only two people left in the world. And as much as it was a colorful spectacle, the scene is also emblematic of Denji falling into a trap. This was especially apparent when the frame would occasionally cut to a spiderweb. Each time it came on the screen, a butterfly was caught, wrapped, until it was fully enveloped, with the spider representing Reze and the butterfly Denji. It was such a foreboding yet masterful way of foreshadowing the later events of the film. That entire scene was one of my favorites from the movie because 1, it showcased a very sweet and genuine romance, and 2, it established a sense of underlying dread. It was subtle, but you can tell that there's something more, that something wasn't right, that there's something much more sinister beneath it all. And I don't know if horror is the perfect descriptor, but that's what it felt like. The way the movie hinted at an ulterior motive while masquerading as a cinematic romance was a testament to how skillfully it used horror elements to create unease and foreshadow future events. The scene that came after when Denji's left alone in the classroom and Reze was being chased down by an unnamed killer was honestly one of my favorite scenes as well. At first, we see Reze running for her life, convincing the audience that she very well might just be a normal girl. The suspense builds a sense of impending doom as she's cornered with nowhere left to run. Then, as the assassin charges, she screams. And in a rapid succession, what transpired on the screen left me and everybody else in the theater in awe. She flawlessly took down the assailant in a quiet but deadly fashion. And then, in absolute cinema fashion, she recites a song in Russian, likely referencing herself and Denji. I remember the deafening silence that filled the theater after that scene. I was completely hooked, fascinated by Reze and the growing tension surrounding her. That suspense built into a subversion of expectations, leaving me certain that something was deeply off and that Denji was in danger. The quiet dread I had been feeling finally erupted during the festival scene. The first half of it was wordless, a montage of smiles, laughter, and joy. Amidst the celebration, the film quietly depicted Denji's yearning for normalcy. It was a glimpse of the love Denji had always wanted, running hand in hand with Reze. Yet beneath the bright colors and youthful energy lingered a fleeting sense of normalcy, all of it building toward the inevitable. In the final moments of the festival, Reze asks Denji to run away with her, to live a truly normal life, to be able to attend school together. This was when Denji and Reze confessed their feelings for each other. But instead of accepting her offer, Denji hesitates. On the backdrop of fireworks lighting up the night sky, Reze leans in and kisses him. The scene cuts to a candy apple dropped on the ground, trampled beneath the feet of excited onlookers rushing to see the fireworks. And suddenly, we see blood dripping from Denji's mouth. And then, Reze's true nature and the horror behind her smile was unveiled. She bites off Denji's tongue, slashes him with a knife. It's in this moment that we learn Reze is the bomb devil, and she's after his heart. My goodness, that reveal and the build-up for it from the start of the festival scene. It gave me an almost melancholic sense of joy seeing these two together. It was fleeting and tugged at our heartstrings. The tension between the two, talking about running away, while warm and heart-wrenching, gave a false sense of security, until it culminated in the horrific reveal of the bomb devil. I was at the edge of my seat. That was when it occurred to me that everything up until that point, the introduction of Reze, the events at the school, the festival, everything built up to this, it was both methodical and suspenseful. That's what I mean when I say that this first half very much felt like a horror. There was just something brewing underneath the facade that had me unsettled while still emotionally gripping at my heart. Even as I'm writing and editing this video, I just can't shake off that feeling of how masterfully the anime was able to deliver such a compelling narrative utilizing the subtlety of horror. While the entirety of the film was great, whenever I think back to my experience of the movie, I always refer back to this first half. It did two things. One, it told a gripping romance between our leads, giving us a reason to invest our emotions into them. Being able to see that novel yet conflicting emotion of love, especially with context of Denji's character, we desperately cheer it on. Likewise with Reze, we meet her and uncover her personality, what she represents, and her motivations. And two, the narrative and cinematic conventions to which the film utilizes in order to symbolize and foreshadow Reze's identity. It does so by invoking an indiscernible feeling of dread by having us question what's actually happening in the back of our minds. I just love the feeling of the unknown and the building suspense that left me on the edge of my seat. It truly was a cinematic experience. What also lingered with me long after the credits rolled wasn't the explosion or the chaos, but how it all ended. Reze's final moments were a quiet, haunting contrast to the intensity that came before, closing her story with a sense of melancholy that I still can't shake off. As Fujimoto once said, I'd be glad if the presence of Reze remained in your minds as a lingering curse. And linger she did. With the little runtime we had from the movie, I loved how the film was able to introduce a character like Reze, portraying her as someone so cheerful and loving, and exploring some of her motivations is able to convince us to care so much for her. Even in spite of her deceit of Denji, her untimely death left a hole in my heart. The way Denji was able to forgive Reze waiting for her at the cafe was a plea for normalcy, and by extension, a yearning for his first true love. The final scene as Reze walks from the telephone booth where they first met around the corner, up the stairs and down the alley, she went from walking to running, excited to see Denji once more, until she was killed right in front of us. And it hurt. All the events that happened in the first half came crashing down on me all at once. The pool scene where Reze warmly told Denji she'd teach him all the joys in life, the way she smiled, the quiet and aching moments in the classroom, and the fleeting joy of the festival, all of that hit me. Her final thoughts being that she never actually went to school before and questioning herself on why she hadn't killed Denji when they first met alluded to something deeper. Perhaps Reze did love Denji, despite the foreshadowing and symbolism of the first half. Maybe deep down, she wanted to convince herself there was more to life, and that's why she didn't kill him sooner. Why else would she, in her dying moments, sound so regretful? That ending represents the short-lived and fleeting love story between Denji and Reze. Not being able to see that love fulfilled is a deep wound to everyone who watched the film, and I am no exception. It's amazing how the film, and especially Fujimoto, introduces us to a character like Reze, letting us care and yearn, only to immediately strip that away from us and leave an unfillable hole in our hearts. Reze truly is a lingering curse. That's especially true for me. In the end, the film is a tragic tale of love caught between tenderness and terror. What makes Reze and Denji's relationship so captivating is that it feels painfully real, even within all the chaos. The affection they share is constantly shadowed by deceit, by the lingering sense that something beautiful is about to collapse. When the truth finally unravels, the horror doesn't come from Reze being the bomb devil. It comes from realizing that both of them meant what they felt, even if their circumstances made it impossible. The explosions, the violence, the betrayal, all of it becomes a twisted reflection of their longing for something pure. Reze's presence lingers as both comfort and curse, a haunting reminder that love can exist even in the darkest places, and that sometimes the scariest part isn't the blood or the destruction, but how human it all feels. And that's what makes the Reze arc unforgettable to me.